Welcome, beautiful friends. We have a storm coming here. I don't know how long I'll be able to do this with the wind, but it is so nice to be outside, and I hope you are all doing really well. Big respect to Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nations. I'm speaking to you from their land, stolen and unceded. Big respect and gratitude, and shout out to all First Nations people listening and to everybody who is tuning in. Thank you so much for joining me for these little explorations into the cosmic pattern that we are all playing a part within. I want to do a little update today just about the astrology for this week, which feels to me like a big preparation for the immensely powerful new moon, which is coming up on the 12th of February here in Australia at 6 a.m. roughly, 6:06 I think a.m. 11th of Feb in the Northern Hemisphere. And that is a super powerful, really inspiring, terribly exciting moon. Of course, there are tensions surrounding it, as there are all year. We're moving very close to the major square between Saturn and Uranus, which will be exact on the 18th. And we get a little taste of it this week as Saturn and Uranus come very, very close together in a square. But not exact. So we'll feel a little bit of the kinds of tensions and restrictions that Saturn and Uranus are going to bring to us in terms of what we are being encouraged to build and create. But before we get there, the thing that I wanted to touch on first is the signature of this weekend, which is the conjunction of Venus, the planet of love, fortune, good luck, relationships, creativity, a beautiful and abundant life, resources, wealth, and Saturn, who is ruling Aquarius. Of course, they're meeting in Aquarius at 5 degrees, beg your pardon, let me check that, 5 degrees. And this is a really interesting signature because Venus conjunct Saturn, generally speaking, makes Venus more serious and more hardworking and strategic and building and hardworking. The other day I was lying in bed contemplating these themes in my own life. I was thinking about how to create a painting that I could use as a mnemonic device to remind me to work smarter, not harder, which is a big and ongoing theme in my life. I have not quite yet mastered, but I'm working towards. And the image just came to me of a beehive and of bees buzzing around beautiful, luscious flowers. And I thought, damn, yeah, that's the kind of work that I want to be doing. And as I continue to meditate on that image, well, actually, the image just didn't leave me. It stayed with me for days. And the more I think about it, the more it has struck me that that is the perfect metaphor for Venus conjunct Saturn in Aquarius. Beehives are highly communal structures that serve community. Saturn in Aquarius wants to build structures that serve community. Venus, of course, is the queen. She's the creative element. She organizes that hive or provides the point through which that hive functions in terms of its purpose, which is to create, to protect, to nourish. The bees are spending their lives doing multiple functions depending on what their role is. And if I think of the hive as a metaphor for the elements of the psyche that are at play in our lives, the queen is the creative dimension of our natures. It's what we're wanting to create that is juicy for us, that's beautiful, that ensures that we live a rich life and that our children and our communities are living a rich life. Then there's the worker bees in our psyches, which have to do the work, and the drones which are fertilizing. Thinking about how hardworking bees are, I'm encouraged by this idea that there is a collaboration, that there are all of these different players. We're all contributing a small role. This wind is going to get so wild. We're coming into a big storm. I just feel inspired by this idea that we can be working hard in service of something beautiful that nourishes all of us. It is hardworking. It is focused on the structure, focused on the future. Honey is the means by which bees are able to store nourishment for the cold months when there are no nectaring flowers. So Venus is playing some really powerful roles this week. Her influence is going to sweeten up some of the homework we have to do this week. That's really the way that I'm thinking about it, because this new moon is so powerful. I really encourage all of you to think about what it is that you're wanting to create for this year, for your lives, for the future, because this new moon will very powerfully activate whatever it is that we consciously intend towards. Venus and Jupiter, the two benefics, will be exactly conjunct exactly at the moment of the new moon. This is so powerful. It means that we want to get really, really clear about what our intentions are, because we're going to have a lot of opportunities over the course of this year to develop and create structures around those exact desires that will enable us to really bring into fruition what's important to us, that is going to serve society. This is what we do in Aquarius, and the new moon coming on the 12th of February is a packed stellium in Aquarius that hasn't happened since 1962. So again, we're coming into one of these big moments. Today, the moon is in Scorpio, and it's a really deep feeling place, and it is opposing Mars in Taurus. We have Venus approaching the conjunction to Saturn, the beehive, and Venus rules Taurus, where Mars is currently located. And in previous discussions, we've talked about how Mars in Taurus is quite a fertile character. He is wanting to kind of pollinate. And with Venus conjunct Saturn in Aquarius, there's this bee metaphor being activated again. The moon is our emotional selves, our emotional lives, our deep feeling, our relation to other people, and to the everyday events of our lives. And so Mars is wanting to create momentum, fecund beginnings that add value to our lives, and he's wanting to take action. The moon is opposing Mars today and gives us this feeling of intensity. Mars rules Scorpio as well, so there's this, interesting kind of reception happening to some degree between the moon and Mars, which I think about as an opportunity to get closer to what it is that's really, really important to us in our psyches, in our minds, in our subconscious. Then on Sunday, the 7th of February, Venus moves just out of her conjunction with Saturn, and she moves into an exact square with Uranus in Taurus, which she also rules. And of course, Uranus is the planet of innovation, change, shocks, disruptions. Venus sweetening Uranus in Taurus suggests that there is the possibility to really innovate in terms of those values that we're trying to give structure to in Aquarius this month, that we're intending to plant seeds towards. At the same time, Venus is sextile Chiron, and Chiron is also playing an interesting role this week. He'll be sextiling Saturn as Saturn approaches that close square to Uranus. So with Venus sextile Chiron and Saturn sextile Chiron, there is this really productive opportunity for healing in terms of what it is that we value and that we want to create and give structure to. Saturn is going to be putting certain restrictions and limitations on what we're capable of achieving right now. Saturn is the no and the kind of obstacles that we're forced to overcome. They are surmountable obstacles we're forced to overcome in order to create something that is deeply of value to us. That's the Saturn-Venus conjunction. And sextiles are really productive. With Chiron still in Aries, this is relating to some kind of wound of the self, that we need to find some kind of freedom within in order to create something that truly is powerful for us and that simultaneously serves our communities. The key in Aquarius is to be serving ourselves authentically and really truthfully, doing what it is that we love and giving honor to our natural gifts so that we can do our very best to serve our communities, our networks, our circles of friends. I come back to this metaphor of the beehive again and think about how, the thing that's so amazing about bees is that so many amazing things about bees, of course. But yes, they're hardworking, but their work involves tasting the scent and the nectar of flowers. That's beautiful work. And then they come back and they build these exquisite architectural structures and they feed the babies, and as they're going about their work of collecting nectar, they are pollinating the foods that we all rely on to eat. So these bees going about their business, doing what they do beautifully, what they do well, feeds all of us. The impact of doing what is true to you, doing what your heart sings for you to do, is actually going to serve everybody in ways that are beyond imagining in terms of their power and their impact. And that's a deeply inspiring thought to me that I have to keep returning to, because there is that very strong Saturnine influence which can be a little bit morose and depressing and heavy and make us think that it's all hard work and everything's a no and nothing is really possible. Over the course of February, we're going to see some really interesting shifts and changes. Mercury is still retrograde, and it is asking us to be reflective and to reconsider and to revise our plans and our thoughts and our ideas about what we're trying to build and about who we're trying to be and how to express ourselves authentically. It's such a huge thing. I struggle with it so much myself, and I'm really praying that this Mercury retrograde and the immensely potent influences that we will be having this week from Saturn and Venus and Chiron are going to help me to get a little bit clearer about that as well. I'm just going to encourage you all once again to take some time, as much as possible as you can this week, to write out what it is that's most important to you, that you are really wanting to create. What are the seeds you want to plant next week on Friday? We have a week to prepare for this. We also want to pay attention to the kinds of events that are occurring in our lives at the moment, especially as we approach this really powerful square between Saturn and Uranus, which will happen on around the 18th of February. But this week we get a stronger taste as Saturn and Uranus meet at 6 degrees, but not exact. They'll meet at 7 degrees exactly on the 18th from memory. We have some ABBA playing in the background. Dancing Queen. Let's be dancing queens this week. Let's try. Saturn is going to make us practice our dance moves again and again and again and again, and rehearsal's going to go for a really long time. But in the breaks, jot down the things that you really want to be doing in your dance career. Try and make your work, whatever it is, whatever is calling you to take action this week. And remember that wherever the Aquarian planets are falling in your chart is where you will be feeling the power and the impact of what is being asked of you this week. On Tuesday, the 9th of February, the Sun will briefly eclipse Mercury, who is still moving retrograde. It will be Cazimi in the throne of the Sun at 3 a.m. in the morning. So we are only going to experience Mercury combust, which is so close to the Sun that the Sun is eclipsing. All of the planets in Aquarius are approaching the Sun, and they're all invisible in the sky. And there's a certain power in this invisibility which means that we are being given extra incentive to go inside and to think about what we are consciously trying to grow in our own lives. And the new moon in Aquarius is going to help us to actualize this, to plant the seed, and that process is going to grow. Saturn is also going to give structure to these new innovations and these new ideas. This approaching square is really, very strongly talking about the ways in which we need to respond to restrictions and obstacles and limitations and the challenges that are being thrown up in our lives by facing them and doing that Venusian bee work of gathering the nectar and creating the honey and building the hive and feeding the young and creating the young and keeping at it all the while. That is the pathway to our liberation and to a new way of being in the world and with each other. Saturn is really going to help us to give form to that, and there are times in which that's hard. Venus loves to lie around and have a beautiful time enjoying herself in luxury. As the queen bee, she is surrounded by luxury, but she works really hard, but she's rewarded for it. So do the work that you love, allow it to be a flight into the garden of delights. Work hard at what you do. Trust that despite the limitations and the frustrations and the impediments that may come up, emotional, physical, external, in whatever form, that they are helping to give us a direction along which to more clearly articulate what we're trying to manifest here in our own lives, in ourselves, and for the world at large. Good luck with your homework this week, honeymakers. Embody your inner queen. I don't mind what gender you are, be the queen. Big love, beautiful friends. I hope this is a beautiful week of intention seeding for the coming new moon.